Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is February 19th, and we're on page 51 in your magazines. And we kind of left you hanging yesterday because today we have the second part of a two-part article. We only finished the first part yesterday. The title of our article is A Search for Redemption in the Kite Runner.
Yesterday, we said that redemption is to save yourself from sin or evil. And when we left off yesterday, we saw that Amir had witnessed the sexual assault of Hassan, and then Amir says that Hassan stole his money. Hassan, although he's innocent, says he is guilty, and the family leaves. We're left with the sin, and now we will seek the redemption, the forgiveness.
And we can't always get full forgiveness for something we've done wrong. We have to keep that in mind, so don't be expecting too much.
It's an adult thing to think back to the bad things that you did as a youth and to reach out to that person and ask for their forgiveness. I know I've done that a few times. I remember picking on a boy a few times. I was picked on when I was and I'm not making an excuse for this. I was picked on when I was younger, and when I got to high school, I remember thinking, I am not going to get picked on. And so I went after a few people, almost like some people when they go to jail. They'll just punch someone in the mouth to be the tough guy.
They've got too much anger and they want to protect themselves.
Oh, yeah. And I did that, and I reached out to that person, and it was very hard. But through their graciousness, they forgave me. Very simply, too. They were just willing to say, hey, it's okay, man. And I am very thankful for that. I always think back to that kindness that person showed me. I don't know if that counts as redemption. Redemption is very serious.
I would say it does.
Well, thank you to that person, because that kindness is a great weight off my shoulders as a man.
That's right. It makes you feel better, and you'll be more likely to pass it on to others.
Absolutely.
I know that there's another thing here, and that is we remember when we were bullied, but we very easily forget when we have hurt other people because we just think, I haven't felt anything. It doesn't leave much of a memory in many cases. We just think of the times when people did something unjust to us. We forget when we have been unkind to others when we have more power. So we're going to start our second part of the article today, paragraph 1. When war breaks out, Amir and Baba flee to the U.S. Baba finds work at a gas station and Amir attends school. One day, Baba runs into an old friend from Afghanistan, General Taheri, and notices his beautiful daughter. He arranges a marriage between her and Amir. Soon after their wedding, Baba passes away from lung cancer.
From out of the blue, Amir gets a call from his childhood friend, Rahim. He tells him that Hassan married and had a son named Sorab. However, Hassan and his wife were killed by Taliban fighters, and Sorab was taken to an orphanage. Rahim also reveals that Baba was Hassan's true father. Upon hearing the news, Amir returns to Kabul and tries to rescue Sorab. He learns that a Taliban official has taken him and arranges a meeting with him. He discovers that the official is the same man that sexually assaulted Hassan many years ago. Amir beats the man, and both he and Sorab escape. Amir tries to adopt the boy, but he can't because they can't prove that his parents are deceased. When Sorab hears this, he tries to kill himself. Although he survives, Sorab refuses to speak afterward. Eventually, Amir is allowed to bring him to the U.S. At the end, they fly kites in the park, just like Amir and Hassan did long ago.
The main theme in The Kite Runner is dealing with guilt. Amir feels deep shame and regret for his cruelty towards Hassan when he was a boy. He carries this guilt with him to America. As an adult, he sees Sorab's situation as his opportunity to gain redemption. Although Amir is not completely successful in helping Sorab, his attempt to right the wrongs of the past helps them both to begin the process of healing. And that's often all we can ask for is to start healing. For it to be complete, that takes a lot of work and it's asking a lot. So let's go back to the beginning. When war breaks out, Amir and Baba flee to the U.S.
If we recall from yesterday, we talked about the author Hosseini left Afghanistan with his family. They moved to France. And then the USSR, the country we call Russia today, they invaded Afghanistan. And this is the event that takes place in the novel here as well. The USSR invades and the country splits along tribal lines. Do they try to become communist? Do they try to remain with their, I suppose, democratic kind of government that they had developed in the 50s and 60s? And it's a choice for all families to make. And this is reflecting the life of Hosseini and his father. Do they remain in France? Do they escape? Do they remain? What are the choices and the impacts on their life? Should they leave or should they stay? And it's not an easy one.
Right. Let's continue. Baba finds work at a gas station and Amir attends school. So just as Chris told us yesterday that the father was originally he? A diplomat. That's right. And when he went to the States, he took a job as a
driving instructor.
A driving instructor. So it's still related to cars. But the thing is, he accepted much, much lower level work than he could have with his level of education and experience. And then Amir went to school. So one day, Baba runs into an old friend from Afghanistan, General Taheri, and notices his beautiful daughter. Now, it's funny. When I read this sentence, I think of a Chinese novel. You know, you see these adults interacting with each other. They notice somebody has a pretty daughter, and they're going to set up a marriage with somebody's son.
I think it really shows the complete destruction of the Afghani society when the USSR invaded, when this father is working at a gas station and he meets someone by accident. He didn't have a plan. He meets a former general.
And the generals are out.
And it's not terribly remarkable.
Yeah, that's it. So even the generals are not there fighting. So he arranges a marriage between her and Amir. And like I said, this sounds like something I read in Chinese novels all the time. You see a friend or somebody you just met, in this case, has a pretty daughter, and you think, oh, that'd be a good wife for my son. Because in that part of the world, in much of the world, actually, people usually have arranged marriages. In India, it's still usually the case. People have arranged marriages. And from what I've read, the success rate of arranged marriages is probably about the same as if you choose your own partner.
It's interesting. I remember my classmate had an arranged marriage when I was 15, and I remember thinking that was silly. Well, she was really quite comfortable. I guess they were quite good friends.
Was she Indian?
Oh,
from some other country.
Close to India. It was geographically related.
Pakistan.
Perhaps. Yeah. I forget at this point. But I remember she was quite comfortable about it.
Yeah, it's just the way they do things.
Yeah.
And she says, I know my parents will pick out somebody suitable for me. He will be about at the right level of education, will have a good job, blah, blah, blah. He'll be a friend of the family, etc.
All of those things.
Yep. Okay, so here we have an arranged marriage. Amir is going to be married to this pretty daughter of this general that Baba had run into by chance. Soon after their wedding, Baba passes away from lung cancer. Now, there could be many reasons for that, probably because of bad air and a lot of dust and probably a lot of, explosions and things in Afghanistan, or maybe he was a smoker. Air pollution, who knows? But he had lung cancer and died.
Let's take a look at paragraph 2. From out of the blue, Amir gets a call from his childhood friend, Rahim.
Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Out of the blue is a great expression. You have something similar in Chinese, but I don't think you use it quite as often as we use out of the blue in English. We use it so often. For example, so we were just having a nice chat when out of the blue he proposed to me.
That is a very sudden and accurate description here.
Unexpected.
The blue here is the sky, in case you're wondering, and the phrase actually originates because several times in history, things have suddenly fallen out of the sky, including frogs. Frogs have suddenly rained down on people. And the idea is that there was perhaps a tornado, and it sucked up a pond of frogs, and they flew up in the atmosphere, and then somewhere they've fallen out of the sky. And apparently, this happens frequently enough that this became a common phrase in English. So from out of the blue is something without warning.
I will have to explain where that sentence came from because it's a true story. And it also happened with somebody named Hassan.
I had a feeling. I was like, this feels very specific.
It was because I knew a guy from Bangladeshi. And from Minnesota, it's so different because Bangladesh is a very hot country. Minnesota's freezing cold.
It's a little different.
It was in wintertime, and he said he loved Minnesota winters, and I just looked at him. And so we were just chatting. We went to these international student events, and then he says, Karen, I know this is kind of sudden, but would you marry me? I said, What?
I know this is sudden.
It was really sudden. It was totally out of the blue. I sort of understood because although he liked Minnesota weather, he was probably kind of lonely. And that's what, he didn't know me that well. I didn't know him that well. We're just casual friends from student events. So that's where, and his name was Hassan. That's what dug that up. Huh. And I said, no. And he says, oh, that's okay. I guess I'll go to England. And then he went to England.
The winters aren't as nice as in Minnesota, I suppose.
Nah, not as extreme and not as satisfying. Okay, so next sentence. He tells him that Hassan married and had a son named Sohrab. Okay, well, this is taking us back to that history that we kind of left hanging after part 1 yesterday. So Hassan was badly wronged by Amir. So he was sexually assaulted and he couldn't get justice. And then Amir said that Hassan stole his money. So things are, he probably has this weighing on his conscience. He's feeling very bad about it. He gets news about Hassan and he finds out that he married somebody and had a son named Sohrab. And so far, so good. But then we go on.
However, Hassan and his wife were killed by Taliban fighters, and Sohrab was taken to an orphanage.
Now, here we have an opportunity because he really wronged Hassan. But since something terrible happened to Hassan, having stayed in Afghanistan with all that violence, he has the opportunity now to sort of do something good, even though it's too late to make up with Hassan. He can at least try to do something for his son, Sohrab. Because he's now in an orphanage, his parents are gone. So Amir is thinking, maybe I can go back and do something for this son who is now an orphan.
Before we continue, I want to take a short detour into the Kite Runner movie that came out in 2007. Yesterday, we talked about the sexual assault of Hassan, and this is very taboo in Afghani society. The movie studio knew that this would be very problematic, and the movie was not actually released in Afghanistan because of it.
They censored it. They would not allow it.
People were not – it wasn't that people would be angry at Amir, but they would be angry at Hassan, who was raped. Mm-hmm. So the family of the actor that played Hassan asked them to cut it out, and the movie studio did not. What they did do, however, is take the actor that played Hassan and moved him to the United Arab Emirates. They moved his family, prepared jobs for them, paid for food and living expenses. Altogether, they paid over $500,000 to protect the actor that played Hassan because he was suggested to be raped in the movie. The actor, for his role, he only made about 1 million NT dollars, but the movie studio paid over $500,000 US just to protect him because people were so angry about this rape.
And making it public, saying that our society has these bad things, maybe?
Some people, because there were two tribes, one tribe was angry because they were shown to be weak. Hassan came from one tribe. They were angry that they were showed as weak. And the other tribe that raped the boy were angry because they were shown to be violent. Either way, everybody was angry at this poor boy and tried to kill him.
And
this is a terrible story.
And he was just an actor.
He was 12 years old, I think. Just a 12-year-old boy.
So now you see why Afghanistan has never been able to escape war.
Right.
I mean, feelings are just too powerful.
Let's continue. Rahim also reveals that Baba was Hassan's true father.
Now that's a shocker. That is a real shocker because Baba is the father of Amir. Amir wronged Hassan. That was his brother.
Which complicates their relationship. Amir lies about stealing money. Hassan admits he's guilty. And then Baba allows his son, Hassan, his secret son, to leave.
And to be wronged by his other son.
I wonder if there's not some cultural meaning that you and I perhaps don't see as outsiders.
Because he probably had an affair and probably with a servant or somebody with low social status, so it couldn't be known. And so he did not even treat his own son well. The whole thing is sad. Okay, let's keep moving.
Upon hearing the news, Amir returns to Kabul and tries to rescue Sohrab.
So now Amir is trying to sort of make up for these wrongs that he did to Hassan.
He is searching for redemption, or he is seeking redemption. Let's continue. He learns that a Taliban official has taken him and arranges a meeting with him.
Okay, now this is the start of something else that's going to be very heavy. A Taliban official. We know that the Taliban and ISIS both, I just heard, was it very recently this morning, about some of the terrible things that they do. Like they try to inspire terror into everybody. They will kill people just for doing things like using a phone or something like that, showing that they like Western culture. They will behead them in public. They will make it gory so everybody's afraid of them. So when you see Taliban official, you know that probably violence is coming.
Let's continue. He discovers that the official is the same man that sexually assaulted Hassan many years ago.
So indeed, here it comes. He is a member of the Taliban officialdom, the people who are ruling, and it was he who sexually assaulted Hassan so many years ago. That was the whole reason for Amir being back in Afghanistan now.
And this is a person that has a certain amount of power as a government official, and Amir needs to ask this person for some kind of assistance. However, it doesn't quite go as planned. As we see, Amir beats the man, and both he and Sorab escape.
And that gives us some sense of satisfaction because this really terrible person, at least he got beat up, and Amir succeeded in getting the son of Hassan out.
Amir tries to adopt the boy, but he can't because they can't prove that his parents are deceased.
Now, this makes me angry when I read it because I hate paperwork. I absolutely hate paperwork. There are some things maybe if I applied for them, I could get some advantages like some money or promotion or whatever. I don't do it because I hate paperwork. And then when you think of it's paperwork that prevented him from adopting the boy, it makes me upset. Paperwork, in some ways, it keeps order in society, but it can also really hurt people.
We saw at the end of paragraph 1 that Baba passes away from lung cancer. Passes away is a very polite way to say someone dies. When someone is deceased, it feels a lot colder. It feels a lot more like we're talking about the government. The government talks about deceased people, not people that pass away.
Or die.
Yeah.
So the next sentence.
When Sorab hears this, he tries to kill himself.
And Sorab is so depressed and so frustrated by this whole situation, and he's also been traumatized or badly hurt in many ways, and he probably doesn't feel that good about Amir in the first place, so it comes to a crisis, and so he's had enough. He tries to kill himself.
Although he survives, Sorab refuses to speak afterward.
And he feels that this whole thing is so terrible, so wrong, and he's sad. He has lost his father and his mother. He has reacted to his trauma by just shutting down. He didn't die, but it's like he's not really living at all, even though he's still alive. He refuses to speak.
Like we said yesterday, don't forget that although does not use but. Let's continue. Eventually, Amir is allowed to bring him to the U.S.
So he's not speaking, he's traumatized, he's miserable, but at least Amir can get him out of Afghanistan and into the United States.
At the end, they fly kites in the park, just like Amir and Hassan did long ago.
So it's not as though it's a happy ending, but it's an improvement over, he tried to commit suicide, he tried to kill himself, and he stopped talking. But at least once he's in the U.S., they are able to do something together that brings back some of the nice memories of the past.
This is definitely what I would call a bittersweet ending, something that it feels good that he has found redemption, but not without a lot of pain and difficulty.
And things that have not been solved.
Right.
Last paragraph. The main theme in the Kite Runner is dealing with guilt. Now, this word guilt, I'm sure it will make all of us think about something in our past where we did something that wasn't quite right and we weren't able to make it right. So dealing with guilt is not an easy thing. Our next sentence, Amir feels deep shame and regret for his cruelty towards Hassan when he was a boy. What this makes me think of is something that Chris said earlier, and that is that he decided once that he was going to try to apologize to somebody who he hurt many years ago, and the other person forgave him. What this makes me think is we can all go anytime. You may think that you're young and strong and that everything is going fine. All of us could be run over by a bus this afternoon. Any of us can go anytime. So if there's any unfinished business you have, especially with people close to you, family members, friends, people in your past, try and fix it now because you may not have a chance tomorrow. Our next sentence, he carries this guilt with him to America. He's not going to get rid of that guilt easily.
And to be even further away, you might be able to hide from those feelings. Maybe you won't have the chance to see this person, but those feelings remain, and you might need to seek them out, which again is the verb we use with redemption. We seek redemption.
And you may need to get therapy. You may need to go to a psychologist, a therapist, somebody to help you work these things out. I remember seeing a movie once of a family that had all kinds of trauma. The children were traumatized. They probably were also abused. And it shows a picture of them having dinner together, and everything looks normal, except that the daughter is wearing her dress inside out. So it will come out somehow when you're traumatized. You cannot suppress it and keep it in. You have to deal with it. Next sentence, as an adult, he sees Sohrab's situation as his opportunity to gain redemption. It's too late to try and make things right with Sohrab's father, Hassan, so he will try to do what he can to make things right with Sohrab.
So we have talked about to seek redemption, to look for it, and to finally get it, to finally obtain it, we use the verb gain. So we gain redemption, to seek and finally gain redemption.
But it is not that easy.
For sure.
Next sentence. Although Amir is not completely successful in helping Sohrab, his attempt to right the wrongs of the past helps them both to begin the process of healing. So all we can do is do our best. We cannot demand that the other person forgive us, that they make things right on the spot, that we all feel good, and that's the end of it. We cannot ask for that. What we can do, however, is we can reach out and make the effort, do whatever we can on our side, and then leave the rest to the other person and to fate.
Hosseini is now in his 50s, and he has written several novels since The Kite Runner. And although even today he feels a little bit uncomfortable calling himself a writer, indeed he is. And he's become a different writer. He said he's glad that he wrote his first two novels when he was younger. Hassan in The Kite Runner, Hosseini says, is a lovely guy, but he's uncomplicated. If I were to write my first novel, it would be a different book. If I were given a red pen now and I went back, I'd take the thing apart. And I wonder how much of this guilt is his own, and were he to change it, being a more nuanced and more nuanced writer that looks for challenging and unclean situations, where would he take The Kite Runner today? And it's almost a shame that this what if can never really be answered for us.
That's true, but we also have a great book to read. Yeah, so we don't have to ask too much. You know, he can put a lot of this stuff into his future writing. I just want to close with this one word that Chris used, nuanced, because that's a really good word that comes from French. It's spelled Nuance. That's the noun nuance, but we can make it into a past participle, nuanced. That means it's full of a lot of very, very fine observations and a lot of really careful, thoughtful writing. It's not just good and bad or black and white. There's a lot of interesting gray. And that's it for today. I hope you will tune in.